You sit in the audience of a keynote address, or you finish a massive new self-help book, and a quiet physical sensation settles in. You nod. You take notes. You feel completely certain that a deep truth has been spoken. Then, the next morning, you try to explain the core idea to a friend over coffee. You search for the facts. You look for the actual argument. And suddenly, you realize you have nothing to hold on to. The entire theory dissolves into vapor. You have just experienced the gap between persuasion and suggestion. Persuasion respects your freedom. It hands you a set of testable reasons you can weigh, analyze, and even discard. Suggestion bypasses your defenses entirely. It provides the exact atmosphere and rhythm of an argument while offering no actual reasons at all. If you felt this, you aren't gullible. You've simply been caught in a highly engineered linguistic illusion. It's a trap that speakers and writers have refined over centuries, designed to make you agree before you even understand what you are agreeing to. To see exactly how this machinery works, we have to travel back to 1869, to the intellectual coffeehouses of a rapidly changing Germany. The educated public here is wrestling with the new sciences, the decline of old religious structures, and a desperate desire for a coherent worldview. Enter Eduard von Hartmann. He is a 27-year-old former soldier, confined to his apartment after a severe knee injury ends his military career. With no academic position and nothing but time on his hands, he decides to write a book that will explain the entire universe. He calls it The Philosophy of the Unconscious. It is over 1,000 pages long. It sells out its first edition in months, eventually going through 11 printings. Serious newspapers debate it. A young Sigmund Freud studies it. Hartmann becomes one of the most discussed philosophers in Europe, but there is a glaring anomaly buried in his masterpiece. Despite its overwhelming cultural influence, heavy academic tone, and massive page count, the book contains zero testable facts. It predicts nothing. It explains absolutely nothing. Hartmann was not a con artist. He was disciplined, well-read, and entirely sincere. So how did an honest author accidentally build a monument of empty air that successfully fooled a generation of highly educated readers? Let's run an autopsy on the text itself. The Persuasion Trap doesn't start with grand philosophical claims. It starts at the microscopic level, with a trick so small it is almost invisible: typography and grammar. Capitalizing a lowercase adjective, like unconscious, promotes it into a proper noun, the unconscious. Your brain assumes this noun is a tangible entity that can perform active verbs. The unconscious wills, organizes, and decides. The grammar does the heavy lifting. This smuggling creates a profound illusion. You assume a metaphysical agent is actively shaping the world, simply because the rules of sentence structure demand a subject. From that grammatical foundation, Hartmann scales up to a broader structural trick. He builds an architecture of inevitability, a massive, self-referencing system designed to be completely immune to criticism. Take his biological examples. If a salamander regrows a severed limb, Hartmann writes that the unconscious willed the repair. If a salamander fails to regrow the limb, the unconscious simply encountered unfavorable conditions and chose not to. Do you see the trap? A theory that conveniently absorbs and welcomes every single possible observation is incapable of being proven wrong. And if a theory cannot be wrong, it cannot actually predict anything. When an intellectual architecture is built to be completely unfalsifiable, it ceases to be an explanation of the natural world. It is nothing more than a highly decorated verbal placeholder. You might be wondering why thousands of intelligent readers didn't instantly see through this. Why do our brains so readily accept these heavy, dense, unprovable tricks? Cognitive science points to a phenomenon called processing fluency. When you read a text full of complicated syntax and heavy vocabulary, your brain has to work incredibly hard to decode the sentences. Automatically, below the level of conscious thought, your mind conflates that exhaustion with profundity. Because it was hard to read, it must be deep. We are biologically wired to use this confidence heuristic. When a speaker is unflinchingly certain, and the language is sufficiently dense, we routinely confuse the massive scale of their rhetorical performance with the actual size of the underlying truth. Over time, biology advanced, and Hartmann's book faded into obscurity, but his structural architecture did not. The Persuasion Trap simply updated its wardrobe, thriving today by wearing modern costumes of authority. The most popular variation is the costume of science. Speakers borrow the dense vocabulary of neuroscience, evolutionary biology, or quantum physics. They cite statistics and throw in technical formatting, extracting total credibility from the audience without ever subjecting their claims to the actual scientific method. Other speakers wear the costume of spirit, utilizing unquestionable, ineffable rhetoric that treats your critical thinking as a spiritual flaw. Still others wear the costume of the market, deploying optimized, framework-heavy jargon that sounds like strategic genius but means absolutely nothing. Regardless of the costume, the mechanism operates identically. The speaker borrows the aesthetic authority of a highly respected field to safely bypass your intellectual defenses. But the trap requires one final ingredient to snap shut: our cooperation. These illusions work because we actively hunger for neat, coherent worldviews. The reality of daily life is messy and confusing. A speaker who arrives with a system that makes the world feel organized is offering profound emotional relief. Today, algorithmic feeds map those exact vulnerabilities. They act as automated delivery mechanisms, matching you with the precise speakers who articulate what you already wish to be true. The machine serves you the exact illusion you are hungry for. There is, however, a reliable antidote. It's an exercise you can perform in your head anytime a claim feels just a little too perfect. We can call it the deflation test. Take a profound-sounding claim and mentally rewrite it. Strip away the capital letters, remove the jargon, translate it into plain English. Then look at what remains and ask yourself, did any actual facts survive the translation? True persuasion respects your intelligence. It moves slowly. It hands you portable, concrete facts, and it leaves you completely free to walk away and disagree. The persuasion trap works fast. It relies on volume, momentum, and aesthetics, leaving you with nothing but a lingering, empty feeling of surrender.